50 chorus singers. So were you all like traveling in a bus?
It was majority bus, and
Was
then
that
we
like
had
the greatest like bus sing-alongs ever?
Honestly, we did watch Chicago, and we had the best time. Especially at a community level, this isn't anyone's day job at the theater where I am. And we all do this because we want to and because we love it.
Hello, and welcome to Good Job New Mexico. I'm your host, Stacy Johnston.
And I'm Leo Castaneda.
And today we are talking with Linnea Mae. She is a production coordinator for Musical Theater Southwest. You'll hear her say it, MTS. So when you hear that, that's what she's referring to.
Absolutely.
She is amazing. Her
She's
job
so
is
great.
so fun.
I had no idea. I had never even thought about how much goes into keeping a play going and making sure that when people walk in, there's mics, and if there's a splash zone.
I know. There's a whole section on Splash Zone, so prepare. But it's so fun to just know the behind the scenes work that it takes to put a production together.
Totally. And how you can pursue a career in theater, in art, in live entertainment, even if you don't want to be the person on stage in front of the mic. There's so much interesting work to be done behind the scenes to make sure everything's running smoothly.
Absolutely. And she gives some really great tips on how you can get your foot in the door if you're not quite sure where to start.
Yeah.
And that's really fun, really valuable.
Absolutely. And to take a career path that doesn't have to go through school, or that can involve school at certain stages, but also through mentorship, through work experience, through building a career out of just doing the thing that you want to do.
For sure. Are you going to go see some more plays now?
Absolutely. I'm already looking at their schedule. There's a current one and a future one that I'm really excited that we talk about in the interview.
Awesome. So definitely check that out if you too are interested. And maybe you just want to have never experienced the theater and you're interested in what's that like.
Absolutely. If you haven't been to a community theater play, I think everyone should at least once in their life. Support the arts in your own neighborhood with your own neighbors. Getting to see your neighbor acting in a play, I think is really fun.
Yeah. And one thing just to listen out for is the different way you can make a stage. No idea until we had this conversation.
That's
that there
right.
were other ways of just a stage in the audience, but it can be really immersive, which is fun.
Totally. And you can play around and you can make that part of the experience is just where are you even sitting in relation to the actors.
Yeah. Super exciting. So please enjoy this episode of Linnea Mae.
Woo!
Are you originally from New Mexico?
I am from a little bit of everywhere. I was born in Denver, but I spent a lot of time growing up in the Albuquerque area and in Hobbs, New Mexico. My grandparents had a bed and breakfast in Bernalillo when I was a kid. So we spent a lot of time out here.
What was the name of it?
It was called La Hacienda Grande years and years ago. It was beautiful, beautiful little spot. So we spent a lot of time working there and whatnot as I grew up. And yeah, I spent the earliest part of my life in Hobbs.
And then what brought you up to Albuquerque?
I came back to Albuquerque in 2020. I missed the mountains. I had moved away with my family to Texas, and the landscape was boring. So I came back.
Well, then I won't ask you where in Texas. Okay, so you came up here. Was that your first job, was working for your grandparents?
Essentially. I always remember cooking breakfast with my grandmother in the mornings. And I actually had never been to attend the balloon fiesta until I moved back here as an adult because a lot of balloonists would stay at the hacienda. Seen balloons go up, helped put them away, things like that, but never got to go to balloon fiesta till I moved back.
That's wild. Did they offer you a ride?
No, I've been in the basket on the ground, but I think I was 5. Seems like probably was a liability issue.
I would be no, absolutely not. Would you do it now?
Probably.
Okay, so no fear of heights.
No, not really.
No, I'm so scared of them. I want to try it, but I'm so scared.
It's fair.
Did you see that video of the one that was a devil balloon that caught on fire a few years ago here? Hit a power line? That's what I think about every time I see a balloon. It's like a devil balloon on fire.
I feel like they're
so
very
highly
safe
specific.
in general. I'm just going to advocate for our balloonists.
Yes, I would definitely go up in a balloon.
I would do
I
it
love
too.
them.
Which we're almost at balloon season.
Oh, I'm so excited.
Are you going to go this year?
Oh yeah, definitely one of my favorite things, especially not having been as a kid. It's so fun to go as an adult, and then we live in a space where we can see mass ascension from kind of like
Oh my gosh,
our
amazing.
air once they're all like up in the air, and so like every day during Balloon Fiesta is just like really magical. When I'm like going to work at 7 a.m, I'm like, oh, there's balloons everywhere.
It must be so loud at night with the fireworks because I can hear them from Rio Rancho.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me.
Okay. I can see them from my backyard.
My dog hates them. He's terrified of them. Like if he sees one balloon, he'll want to like run inside and run under the bed because I think he's just like too many moons. Like
That's
I don't know what
fair.
that is, and it scares me.
That's fair.
Well, also like the sound of like the psh, psh, or whatever.
Right.
That's scary.
That's also scary. Do you? Because I feel like I bring my job to whatever space I'm in. As like a stage, are you like looking around as like a stage manager, being like, how do you coordinate so many balloons all going up in like a very specific order? They all need a certain amount of space.
I mainly operate in controlled chaos, and going to Balloon Fiesta is slightly less controlled chaos. So, yeah, I definitely will catch myself looking at stuff and being like, are they going to have enough space? But like, I mainly work with, people and pieces, not balloons. So I don't really know how their stuff works. I think every time I've been to Balloon Fiesta, I've definitely been like, are they going to like run into each other as they're inflating? Because that seems way too big to fit there. But not my circus, not my monkeys.
Right.
Yeah. I feel the same way though about bringing your job wherever you're at. Like every time I hear an ad or watch a commercial, I'm like, that's really great. Or I would have done that a little different or whatever. It's like you just can't help it.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I find myself looking at performance spaces that I visit as a patron from that lens all the time, basically. I mean, people that go with me can attest to seeing me just like looking straight up at the lighting fixtures or whatever, like during a show that we're enjoying, that I'm also enjoying. Then I'll see something happen and be like, how did they achieve that? Where's it coming from?
So I want to hear more about your path and how you got to the theater. So we started out working for our grandparents, and then tell me the rest of your journey and how you got there.
I've been in dance my entire life. My mom put me in dance at a very, very young age, and that was my life. Basically until I moved out here. I've been here since 2020. I grew up dancing. I grew up doing competitive tap dance, and then eventually was a dance teacher and went to a community college in Texas for dance. And that was the first time that I got to work backstage and to work late in a theater space and to have some kind of ownership over our performance spaces. And so that was like the first time that I really started doing the type of work that I do now. But I've been around the performing arts for basically my entire life. And going from working backstage in a dance capacity to coming here and working backstage in a theater capacity is different but similar. There's a lot of things that are the same. We need space backstage for dancers to be able to quick change their costumes just as easily as we do actors, right? So there's less differences between areas of performance art that people sometimes think about. And being on stage, I was on stage for a really long time before I was ever working backstage. And even when you are a performer, you have to have a sense of how these things run. Otherwise, you won't be able to use your tools and do your job as a performer. So you have to know, oh, the show goes in this order. I have to be on this side of the stage. I have to go and talk to this person to get this thing for this performance or whatever. And so there's a lot more crossover of knowledge than I think people sometimes think that there is.
Does it like affect how you do your job having come up as a performer? Like, do you feel like you're more like empathetic to other of like, well, you're probably like super winded. You probably want to take like 10 seconds to breathe before I'm like pushing costume changes on you.
Or is it the opposite? Like, just go, go, go.
It's kind of the opposite. A lot of times I'll run into performers that they need a break or whatnot. And of course I'm empathetic. I love working with them. And especially when I kind of have two main jobs. I am the production coordinator for the theater that I work for. And then I also independently stage manage shows. So of course, when I'm stage managing, like my cast is the people that I have to take care of. And so Of course, if you need 10 seconds for a costume change, I'm going to try and figure out how to make that happen. But also coming from being the person who only had 5 seconds for a costume change, sometimes I'm like, we can make it happen. It'll be okay. We'll figure it out.
I love watching that behind the scenes for Broadway. Have you seen this? Where it's like they're still talking, but then they have like this team of people that are like changing them out. I think one of the last ones I saw was like Shrek, and they had to make her green.
Yes. I saw that
It was crazy how
Yeah.
quick and how fast that team needs to be
Yes.
to get them back out there.
Yeah, it's crazy stuff. Thankfully, I work on a slightly smaller level than that, thankfully. We can have like 1 dresser per person instead of like 10.
When you first started, what was that first role?
So my first theater, like backstage role here in Albuquerque actually was as a backstage stagehand for MTS's production of Cabaret. And all I did was pull the curtain open and then let the curtain go back down, and pull the curtain open and let the curtain go back down. That was the majority of my job. I cleaned some stuff and other things backstage, but for the entirety of that run of that show, I was just standing right there. We had built a pulley system because the theater it's a black box. So we don't have like a fly rail system or anything like that. So we built a pulley system for a curtain for our production of Cabaret. And the curtain was my job. Yeah, that was the first thing I really did here.
When you were in that position, did you really soak in what everybody else was doing and kind of hone in on like, I would really like to do what that person over there is doing?
Yeah, there was definitely a lot of observation, right? Coming into a musical theater space is familiar to me, but not the exact thing I had worked with at that point in time. And so there was so much time that I had backstage to observe, to watch, to help with or watch quick changes, to watch the ways that they did tech testing and stuff like that beforehand, and just kind of start picking out these roles that I enjoyed, and then also being handed some of the things that I was doing that I didn't want to do again. So yeah, definitely a lot of like observation and like bringing in information about everything that's going on around you.
Did you have a mentor that really took you under their wing and was like, hey, maybe you want to try this out a little bit?
I did. I briefly went to UNM for theater, and I met Teresa Carson there. And she's a professor of theater at UNM. I was in her class. And she at the time had been, working with this theater as well. And I was really looking for other things to do. And so she was the person who got me plugged into that role in Cabaret, and then was able to kind of stay close to her through that process and eventually get plugged into some stage management roles. I have since stage managed for her. She's a director in town as well that I live working with. She's taught me so much and really took me as a non-traditional student at the time and gave me more tools to work with than I would have had otherwise, for sure.
Can you tell us about Dogfight?
Yes, I can.
Can you give us like a quick overview of the story? Because it's such an interesting story. I hadn't seen the movie, even though River Phoenix is fantastic. So
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about the story?
Yeah, totally. I have not seen the movie still, but my friend introduced me to the soundtrack before anything else. And then I found out that MTS was producing it and was lucky enough to be part of that team. So it follows this group of Marines on their last day before they ship out to Vietnam. They hold a dogfight where they all try to compete to see who can get the ugliest girl to come to the dance with them. And one thing leads to another. And of course, the girl that our lead brings with him, he decides that he shouldn't have done that because that's a mean thing to do to someone. And then they fall in love, and then he leaves for Vietnam. It's a beautiful show. The writers of the show are Pasek and Paul, who also did The Greatest Showman and Dear Evan Hansen.
Okay.
And Dogfight came before both of those. So it was kind of a predecessor to a couple of really well-known musicals now. And it just is such a well put together, very upsetting, but very poignant kind of story following the kind of misadventures and the growth of these young men and the people that they come into contact with, and how like running into just one person can kind of change your perspective on things. Such a good show.
I love that. Is it hard to work on a show where you like really love the music? Is it hard to kind of like lock in on whatever you need to do at that moment? Or does it make it easier to be in the flow of the play?
That's a great question. It kind of depends. Dogfight is the first show that I worked on that I was like, I will work on this show because I love it. I love all of the other shows that I've worked on, of course, but this was one of the first ones that I loved before I worked on it. And for this show, I stage managed for this show.
Right.
And stage management often in a Broadway situation is just calling shows. And then there are people on the board pressing the buttons for the lights and people on the board pressing the buttons for the sound and things like that. Some of those things change in community theater because sometimes our booth is too small for multiple people. Sometimes we have different things going on that don't require multiple people. Dogfight was one of those kind of like mishmashed situations where I was pressing a lot of buttons throughout the show. For Dogfight specifically, had to be just as plugged into the score as my actors were so that I could be sending light cues at the right time, so that I could be muting and unmuting microphones at the right time, sending sound cues at the right times. And so there really was no choice but to be both like plugged into something because I like loved it, and also to be just like very aware of everything I needed to be doing at the same time.
Yeah.
Were you exhausted after every show just because of like that heightened state that you need to be in for the whole time?
It gets tiring. It really does. Oddly, in just direct opposition to that, though, sometimes the shows where there's not much happening for a few pages are more tiring. I've stage managed and called shows where, you know, we just are going through a scene and there's really not a whole lot that needs to change. There's no lights going on. It's the same people on stage for a minute and, you know, flipping pages and you're like, I wonder if somebody fed the cat for me. Another page and you're like, am I going to like get food on the way home or not? And then all of a sudden you have to plug back in, and that shift is sometimes more tiring than like being in it for the whole thing. Because sometimes with Dogfight, we would get done with Act 1 and it would be time for intermission. And I'd be like, didn't we just start? Like, we barely started. So it kind of depends.
I think we're at a good spot to understand what's a typical day look like and then also a week.
Yeah. There are so many different parts of the process that a typical week will look different depending on what part of the process something is in. So right now, I have one show that just closed, so we're getting the space completely reset for the next show. I have one show that's in rehearsals, and I have one show that's just about to start casting. And so this week is busy. And this week is building things, repainting the floor, cleaning up after the previous show, making sure that the next show that's going to be in our performance space has all of the items and all of the equipment that they need. And then also facilitating getting a brand new cast onboarded to our space so that they can start their rehearsal process. And so that will differ from 2 weeks from now, when instead I have 2 shows in rehearsal and 1 show in pre-production. So next week it will be turning up to the theater to check in on the show that is going into tech soon, and going to join music rehearsals for the show that just started rehearsing, and just being a presence for the actors and for the crew as they start to get their footing. And then we'll be starting to launch production meetings and planning auditions for our next show. So it will be meeting with the director of the next show to know how many people they're hoping to cast, and meeting with the rest of the artistic team to get them their contracts and get them onboarded to the theater. So it really does change depending on what portion of the process we're in. Honestly, my weeks are the quietest when we have a show that's open. There's the least amount for me as a production coordinator going on when a show has opened, and there's one show that just turns up on Friday, Saturdays, and Sundays, and then the rest of the week another show's just rehearsing. That's my quiet time. And then we immediately switch back into
I was going to say, so is there a day off? It sounds like it's always on.
It sometimes is. I of course do have a life outside of it, and the way that I work with my teams and my staff, the theater, and the people who are in charge of me is organic sometimes, but we all try our very best to respect that there's on Friday nights I am not there, and on Wednesday afternoons I am not available for phone calls and things like that. Because really we all, especially at a community level, this isn't anyone's day job at the theater where I am. And we all do this because we want to and because we love it. And so respecting the time that people have away from it is really important.
Communication's super important in your job. How do you juggle communicating with the director, the actors, your assistant? All of that has to happen probably seamlessly. So how do you handle that communication? Is there a different style for each person that you interact with?
There is. Some people respond better to longer, like I want to meet and talk about everything and get it all figured out and then go do my thing. Designers prefer that a lot, which is why we have production meetings. But stage management, I might be emailing with my stage manager at least once a day most of the time. And yeah, so there's definitely a different approach with different people who have different jobs. But I am a big believer that there's always space to communicate. I have 3 or 4 email accounts attached to my phone at any given time, but I always would rather get an email about something than not hear about it. Other people in this line of work definitely respond to that as well. My stage manager always would rather know that something is going on that has nothing to do with her show, just in case it comes up that it would have something to do with her show. When we book the space on days that one of our shows is not planning to rehearse, I let my stage management know anyways, because who knows if they thought maybe they would come in that day or something.
Can you tell us about the New Mexico Gay Men's Chorus?
Yeah.
And what work you did with them?
As an independent stage manager, I was asked to join them for their recent college tour for The Unbreakable Harvey Milk. And Musical Theater Southwest has partnered with them. We partnered with them for the show that just closed for Bear. And we've done a lot of things with them in the past. And they're just a wonderful organization that I love working with. I stage managed their traveling tour, which was the first traveling show that I had stage managed. It was a blast. Stage managing for a chorus is also very different from stage managing for a musical or a play. We have to fit 50 odd people on our chorus risers and make sure they all have their stools and they all have their t-shirts and all that stuff, which is different from making sure that all 7 of my cast has their intricately placed props on their dresser. It will remain one of my favorite things that I've had the privilege of doing.
Would you do it again?
Absolutely. To hop on a bus with 50 odd chorus singers. And we went to, this is not in order, we were in Las Vegas, New Mexico. We were in Santa Fe. We were in Las Cruces. No, that's just where we stayed the night.
That's fun. Just to get to do what you love, but then travel
So
as well.
fun. Yeah, we got there midday or in the morning or whenever we got there, unload all our risers, get out all of our stuff, give our dancers some time to figure out where to go in the space, get everybody's instruments unloaded, practice, do the show, load back up, and head on out.
Were you able to do a lot of like advanced work, or were you like showing up and being like, where's the outlets? Where's the...
So that is one of the like proactive things that I think a lot of people don't realize go into setting up a show. We had meetings with all of the people who were in charge of the spaces that we were going to so that we could know as much as we could before we got there. And so we would have a Zoom meeting with the technical director at whichever school we were going to and ask, we had a projector for that show. So what's our projections capabilities? Do you have people that can run lights? What do you need from us in terms of equipment setup? Do you have these types of microphones or do we need to bring our own? So many questions to get answered for each different space. And for that show in particular, each space was completely different.
Oh my God. So you had to almost like restructure the entire production.
A little bit here and there.
From place to place.
I had one book for the show, but I had a different technical setup for each place. So every place we would go, I had my notes and my list of what this place had versus what this place didn't have, to kind of give us at least a launching point when we got there and got in touch with the people who were in charge.
Was that like the greatest like bus sing-alongs ever?
Honestly, we did watch Chicago and we had the best time.
That's great.
It was pretty great.
I mean, you got to boost morale. I remember driving in the bus for basketball, but we watched, A League of Our Own. Got to get in the mindset.
Yeah.
Absolutely. What would you tell someone who was like, I really love theater, musical theater, general theater. I don't want to be on stage, but I want to work in this space. Like, how do I start building out that career, whether they're before college, they didn't go to college, they don't want to go to college? Like, how would you advise that someone that has like a passion for theater and wants to build a career in it?
Yeah. My starting point is always to be there. You won't get to know a space if you don't see a show there, and you won't get to know a space if you don't hang around after and talk to whoever's running the front of house. So to go and to be in those places as often as you can find time to. Maybe we're doing a maker's market, or maybe we're doing maybe it's someone else's performance. We serve as a space for people to be, and being in that space is always going to be the first thing that I recommend. We have dance classes. We often have workshops for the shows that we're going to be putting up. That's something that we do at MTS before we go to auditions. We do a workshop for the show where the director and the creative team talk about the show that they're putting up, that talk about their vision for the show. We learn a little bit of the music. Sometimes we learn a little bit of the dance. Even if you're not interested in auditioning for that show, being at things like that is instrumental. It gives you a chance to talk to other people who are part of the show. It gives you a chance to see the inner workings of how someone is imagining this show will come to fruition. And so my biggest advice always is just to, any chance you have to be in a space that you may want to work in, be there.
Can you, speaking of space, can you, for the less theater literate of us, can you explain the difference between like a black box theater and like a traditional stage and gallery theater?
Totally. So a black box is unique because it really is just that. It is a big black box, and you can turn it into a lot of different things. One of the biggest advantages of a black box space is that it can be set up in any configuration for a performance, which is one of its biggest advantages. There are a few main types of stage that you see. So one of them, the most recognizable, is called a proscenium. That's what you see Hope Joy at Albuquerque Little Theater. All of the audience sits on one side of the space, and the show happens in front of you. Things can also be set up in what's called a thrust or a 3/4, where there's a stage that comes down in the middle, and you've got audience on three sides of that. And then you can also do an alley, where you've got the stage running straight down the middle and audience on either side of it. First show that I stage managed at Musical Theater Southwest was Next to Normal, and that was set up in an alley configuration. It was so fun, so fun. So that's one of the biggest advantages of a black box, is that you can set it up in different ways. We just did, the show that we just closed was set up in a proscenium manner, where we had audience just on one side. And then the show that we're setting up now is in kind of like a twisted configuration, where we've got audience sitting along the edges in kind of an L shape, and a kind of diagonal playing space in front of it. So that's really what a black box really is, just a big black box where a lot of different things can happen. We can paint the floors, we can paint the walls, we can bring set pieces in, we can take set pieces away. It's really fun. I love working in a black box space.
Do you have a personal preference of the stage?
Not really. I've enjoyed all of the different types of stages that I've worked on. I have not stage managed a show in 3/4 before, but I've worked with all of the others, and I like them all for different reasons.
I really want to go to an alley.
Yeah, that's fascinating.
Amazing.
It's really fun.
I've seen a couple plays where there's a theater in San Diego that is fully the four sides. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And it's a really cool experience, because it really feels like you're like there's like no space that is not the stage.
Yes.
So it feels like you're in the stage, because there's nowhere for the actors to go elsewhere.
Yeah.
Do they like appear from the floor?
No, there's like just kind of go out through like little doorways into, but it's like they walk almost like into the audience. You're like kind of like a little bit higher up, so they don't walk directly.
Past you. Yeah, it's really, the theater in the round is really fun. It's really difficult. It's really interesting.
Do you have a play or movie or something that could be a play that you're like, I would love to produce that?
Oh, again, this is going to be a little bit of a shameless self-promotion. Our next season at Musical Theater Southwest, we are producing the Prince of Egypt musical. And I have the absolute honor of being the assistant director on that production alongside Justin Saladay, who is just incredible. So that would be up there. I am very excited to get to work on that production. The show that will always hold my heart is Singin' in the Rain. And that's the show that got me into musicals when I was a very, very small child. So I would love to produce Singin' in the Rain.
Classic.
It is.
But wow, Prince of Egypt. My partner's obsessed with that.
It's going to be a really good show.
Are you going to go then?
Oh, absolutely.
Buy your tickets.
Yeah.
Get ready.
mtsabq.org.
Perfect. Just for people who are thinking about following your similar career path, what are the qualities or skill set that individual should have, or do they need to have that they could just maybe learn on the job?
Yeah, there's a lot of learning on the job that happens in this industry. I hated higher education when I was part of it and dropped out of college more than once. So learning on the job is a big part of this job. You have to be curious. You have to want to know why. You have to want to know what happens in the booth during your favorite shows. You have to want to know how we make thunder sounds, make the seats rumble, and things like that. You have to want to ask those questions. And furthermore, you have to be willing to ask questions. You will not know half of the things that you want to know or need to know when you first get started in a career like this, regardless of the education level that you bring, because every space is unique and every company is unique and every show is unique. There will always be a situation that you run into where you, as the person who is supposed to have the majority of the answers, will have to find a way to ask a question. And so I think that that's one of the biggest qualities that someone needs to be able to bring to this space of industry and of work is you have to be willing to find out and figure out and ask and problem solve and learn. And it's such a general concept that I think probably most people who come on this podcast will say, well, you have to be willing to learn. You really have to be willing to figure out things that you have no prior engagement with, and to be able to figure out and follow the line of, okay, I don't know how to work this microphone, but I know this person knows how to work this microphone, and I know that this person will know where to send me so that I can figure out how to work this microphone. And to just be willing to ask people who will know that, to be willing to ask people who will know when you don't. One of the biggest things that I do in my job.
Was it hard getting over the hump that first time to ask, to not be like, oh, I have to look like I already know everything?
Oh, yeah. I think especially also when you're surrounded by performers who are often so good at what they do and are so dedicated to what they're up to. You're surrounded by people who seem like they know what they're doing all the time. So yeah, definitely a hurdle. But then once you've asked the first question, you can ask a million more. And so many people are often so willing to answer. I love answering people's questions when they're working on shows with me.
I kind of feel like through the pure nature of this job, even if you're someone that's just very quiet or you never raised your hand in school ever, because it's like, I don't want the attention on me, just for what you have to do to succeed in your job, it just makes you have to ask those questions. So I think if someone's intimidated, like, oh, I don't know if I want to ask questions, it sounds like it's okay and it'll just naturally come. So you should just go for it if it's something that you really want to do or are curious about. There's people that are willing to help you along the way. And
always.
It sounds like everybody wants to talk about it. So yeah, ask away.
Yeah,
right?
Techies never want to be on stage, but we would love to tell you about our job.
Okay, rapid, not so rapid questions. Ready? So the first one is, what was your very first in-person musical that you saw?
Chitty Chitty Bang Bang.
Wow. Phantom.
Where did you see it?
In Mexico City Theater.
What
It's
did
a
you
great
see
production.
yours?
The Buell in Denver.
Oh, nice. Mine
What
was
do you-
Cats.
Nice.
And I was in middle school and I was like, oh, this is what I remember. My thought from it is like, I think they've already sang this song.
Hamilton or Wicked?
Wicked, because I've seen it, but I haven't seen Hamilton, like on stage.
Have you seen both?
I've seen the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And I watched the thing that they put out on like Disney Plus. It looked like someone recorded it with like a camcorder from
pro
like
shot.
100 yards away,
Yeah.
and did not super care for it. So, but I saw Wicked in theaters.
Oh, okay. A tip for those that want to watch Wicked, you need both AirPods. You can't listen to it with just one. Because I was getting like half the sound. I was like, this cannot be the way the song sounds like. What do you like most about your job?
I love being the first person in the building. I love being the first person in the space. I love being alone in the theater.
Is there one like living or deceased like musical theater star that you would love to work with?
Gene Kelly.
Ooh, that's such a great answer.
I did not. The way that I just had to wait for you to finish your question.
Do you eat out or bring your lunch?
Both.
Is there time for lunch?
There is time for
Okay.
lunch. It depends on if I'm coming from home, from work, from a day out, or from another theater.
Depends on the day then.
Yeah.
Biggest fear?
I think my biggest fear as a stage manager is accidentally calling the wrong person to tell them that they're cast, or calling the wrong person to rehearsal and having to send them home.
Oh, that gives you so
Yeah.
much anxiety.
Yeah, that's definitely my biggest fear.
If you weren't doing what you're doing now, what would you be doing? Or is the answer, I'm exactly where I want to be?
Yeah, being sad probably.
Well, then I'm glad that you are where you are.
Yes.
If you had to sing one musical theater song for $1 million flawlessly, what song would you choose?
Song that the dad sings in Next to Normal. I've been from Next to Normal for
Okay.
sure.
Okay, last question, red or green?
Christmas.
Great answer.
Thank you so much for being here today. and
Thank you for
sharing
having
your
me.
Bye.
Bye.
This has been a New Mexico Department of Workforce Solutions production. Our producer is Milo Koleski. This episode was engineered and mixed by John Sloan. Theme music is One Fine Day, courtesy of podcast.co. Follow the show on social media at GoodJobNM. For program funding, visit our website, dws.state.nm.us/funding. Bye.